Okay, now let's move to the next topic, that is your cell theory. तो अभी सेल थ्योरी में एक्चुअली इट इज़ अ थियोरेटिकल प्रोपोजिशन. ठीक है, प्रोपोजिशन तो नहीं, अभी प्रोपोजिशन वहाँ पे बोला जाता है कि जहाँ पे कुछ बोल दिया हो उसका वैल्यू है नहीं है कुछ मालूम नहीं है, एट दैट पॉइंट यू हैव जस्ट सेड इट, बट दिस वाज एक्चुअली प्रूवन, so that's why it finally got the recognition of the cell theory. Now actually in 1838, in the year 1838, Matthias Schleden, what he did, he gave the concept after a lot of work, he gave the concept that cell is the structural unit or the most fundamental unit of structure of all life forms. Okay, this was the first postulate that was actually included, the first proposition that was actually included in the cell theory. Immediately in the next year, that is in 1839, we saw that Theodor Schwann, he gave the concept that cell is the fundamental unit, it's the most fundamental unit of function of all the life forms. अब इसका मतलब क्या है, बोल तो दिया है, मतलब क्या है इस चीज़ का, structural and functional unit of life. What does it mean? Structural and functional unit of life means any cell, from any cell, if you consider individually, then it will be able to show you all the activities, all the functions that are being carried out inside the body, or you can say it is the sum total of all the activities, functional activities inside the cell that is actually visible in the normal human being. Okay, that means if in a normal human being or in a normal organism you see something like respiration, digestion, excretion, whatever, all the activities, all those are the sum total of activities of each and every cell. Just because it is happening in each and every cell, that's why you see the whole body is performing that activity. Secondly, structural unit, they build up or they make up the whole body. A particular cell, most of the cells which perform the same type of functions, they form a cluster, they become the tissues become the organ becomes multiple similar functioning organs, they become the organ system, and then the organ systems, they compile up and they give the particular organism in its proper place. So you can say that is the reason why cell is the structural unit of all life, and simultaneously this one also turned out to be true, that it is the fundamental unit of function of all the life forms. In 1858, another scientist, that is Rudolf Virchow, he gave the concept that all cells arise from pre-existing cells. Now what does that mean? Means a cell will never originate without having a parent cell. One cell, it divides into two daughter cells, and they will further divide into more 4 daughter cells. So it just goes on. So you cannot say that a cell is just completely independent and it existed out of nowhere all on its own form. Every cell arises from a pre-existing cell, and that is a matter of fact. That's why this proposition was included in the cell theory, and hence the whole of the cell theory includes these 3 propositions. So what is important over here? You have to keep it in mind, the year, which is important. Who said which proposition? This is how it goes. This is how the whole thing goes. You have to keep in mind the year, the name of the scientist who gave the proposition, and what proposition exactly that particular scientist has given. Okay, so this was all about the cell theory. Now, sometimes a statement comes into the limelight that life begins, all the life forms or life begins from a single cell. From a single cell. How is this related to either of the cell theory propositions? It actually has its link from here. And do you know what is the single cell all about? The single cell is actually, we are talking about the zygote, which is the product of the fertilization of sperm and ovum. Okay, this zygote is actually a diploid single cell. It's a diploid single cell. Now question will come, what is diploid? Diploid means the chromosome number exists, the chromosomes exist in pairs. Okay, when we talk about the pairs, there are pairs, means that it is diploid. If only one set is present, it is called haploid. Zygote is a diploid cell. Human sperm and human ovum, they are haploid in nature. The gametes, they are always haploid in nature, but they fuse together to form the diploid. Even all the cells inside our body, except the gametes, they are diploid in nature. The somatic cells, we call them. So they are all diploid in nature. So zygote is the diploid cell which actually goes on dividing multiple times. It gets differentiated, it gets its own fate, and ultimately when all the cluster of cells, they get their own fate, they change into the tissues, the organs, the organ systems, and finally they give rise to a complete living form, the complete organism. So that's why this thing stands true when we talk about this Rudolf Virchow's proposition in the cell theory, that all cells arise from the pre-existing cell, and hence we can talk about, or we can relate this thing to the zygote, which is actually a diploid cell from which the complete organism is going to rise and come to the limelight. Okay, so this was all about a cell theory. Now you can actually pause the video over here and take screenshot, or if you want you can write it in a systematic manner. Actually when you're writing science notes, you have to be very systematic. You just can't go on writing something like of history, you are going to write long essays for each answer. No, science means you have to be very pinpoint, the answers have to be crisp. Doesn't mean you just write 2 words and you expect 3 marks for that. No, it has to be a very crisp answer. It should be of 2 to 3 sentences, as depends upon the marks, but again those 3 sentences have to include everything. So you can say, if your vocabulary is not strong, you don't know how to frame a perfect answer, then ultimately you are going to lose time as well as marks. So that's how it goes in science. So in order to be good in science, you need to be a master of the language in which you are understanding it and the language in which you are representing your answer. So both the things count. So I hope this part is clear to you. Now coming back to one important thing. Now cell was a structural and functional unit of life. Okay. Now moving ahead to something much more about which gives the existence to the cell. Something that adds valor to the life form of a cell. That is actually called protoplasm. Okay. This protoplasm word was actually given by the scientist Perkinch. Okay, we will not go into the much details like in which year he gave the term and all that. No, we'll be talking only about the composition and the basic significance. So Perkinch was the one to give the term protoplasm. After that, the actual theory about protoplasm, what protoplasm is, it was given by the scientist named Schultz. Yes, skull. It means when you pronounce this word, the word skull comes into your head, but actually it's Schultz. Okay, Schultz gave the concept of the protoplasm, and he even said it to be the Protoplasm Doctrine. The Protoplasm Doctrine. Now, what do you mean by doctrine? Doctrine means a theory, a whole proposition out of the observations of everything that you have observed throughout the years of research, and that you propose it as the doctrine, the law. So the Protoplasm Doctrine. Now what does it mean? Protoplasm Doctrine, as per Schultz, went on to say that protoplasm is the source of life to everything. It is the sum total of all the contents of the living forms inside a cell that makes up the cell completely. So this was what the Protoplasm Doctrine was. It means if a cell is alive, whatever it is alive because of, whatever factors that cause it to be alive, everything comes under protoplasm. That's why in simple terms we say that it is the sum total of all the living contents, of the cell. Okay. Now, inside a cell, if I go on to draw over here, if this is a cell, whatever you see inside it, it is all protoplasm. Okay. One most important part inside a cell, inside a living cell, I repeat, inside a living cell, is this tiny creature which is the ringmaster of the circus. Ringmaster of the circus means it negotiates everything. It controls all the activities and controls every genetic information. Everything is controlled by this thing. And it is nothing but the nucleus. So nucleus is also included in this protoplasm. But everything of the protoplasm except the nucleus, everything in the protoplasm except the nucleus is actually the cytoplasm. Okay, it is the cytoplasm. So you can say cytoplasm is nothing but protoplasm minus nucleus. Now it becomes easy to understand. Protoplasm excluding the nucleus, protoplasm minus nucleus. Now inside the cytoplasm you find a lot of small structures which carry out specific functions. And what are the structures called? These structures are called organelles. Okay, just have a look over here. Organelles. Now why I said this like that? Organelles, they are very much similar to organs, but they are not organs. They are like organs inside your body. We can relate organs to the body with comparison to organelles inside the cell. They perform specific function. They help the cell to carry out a particular function so that it can survive on its own, okay, inside the living being. So each organelle performs a specific function. Like you have the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi body, ribosomes, lysosomes, centrosome, vacuoles, food granules, everything. Okay, everything is included inside this. Now, organelles, they are just completely in the cytoplasm and they are never rested in one corner of the cell. It's not that. They are always in a suspended condition. Suspended means they are just you can say inside the whole state of liquid, which is the protoplasm, the solid state of protoplasm, they are just suspended as it is in their own positions. They don't change space. And definitely when they are suspended, they are likely to move inside that particular defined space, but they will never settle down. Okay, that thing, that condition is called the ergastic condition. And sometimes we call it, even in your physics and chemistry, you must have heard about something called the Brownian motion. They exist in Brownian motion or the ergastic condition. Okay. Now, in the cytoplasm, you have these organelles. What will be there when we remove all the organelles from the cytoplasm? So you can say cytoplasm minus organelles, or cytoplasm excluding the organelles, the fluid part or the sol part, is actually called sol part. I repeat, it is the cytosol. Very important. It is called the cytosol. So cytoplasm minus organelles is called the cytosol, or excluding the organelles, the fluid part is, or the sol part is called the cytosol. So this was all about your protoplasm, cytoplasm, cytosol. Now the nucleus has been excluded from the cytoplasm. The reason is cytoplasm has totally different features, different properties. The acidic, the medium, the pH of the cytoplasm is very much different from the nucleus. So whatever fluid inside the nucleus is there, it is called the nucleoplasm. Okay, that's how we differentiate it. Protoplasm, cytoplasm, excluding the nucleus, the part is called cytoplasm. Excluding all the organelles and the nucleus, the part is called the cytosol. And whatever contents are present inside the nucleus, that comprises total of nucleoplasm. So that was all about the protoplasm and the protoplasm doctrine given by Schultz. And from here, now we can easily move into the next topic, I can say, that is about the number of cells and the organisms with various number of cells, what they are referred to as. Okay.